Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Alex Gizis, your host. And this is Will. He is a developer at Speedify. We both work at Speedify. We are here for you. This is office hours. Your chance to ask us questions. So how do you ask us a question? Well, you take the keyboard and you type comments. Wherever you're watching this, as long as where you're watching this is, YouTube or Twitch, we will see them and we will answer you because that's what we're here for. All right, I'm rearranging windows a little bit here.
Well, we also get to talk about other stuff. Like,
We'll also talk about other stuff. So
maybe a Python?
maybe. All right. All right, quick question. New phone who dis is signed up for a monthly unlimited plan to test Speedify, and they're thinking about switching to an annual plan. What's the easiest way? The easiest way is you go to my.speedify.com, you sign in, and there's a poke around your license. There'll be some sort of upgrade, and you can click that, and it'll suggest your options and tell you what you can do.
It's pretty good. We've been doing a lot of work on the cart and the customer experience on that too.
The e-commerce stuff is a shocking amount of work. Making a really nice experience where you can not just buy, but upgrade and downgrade and
How much is
cancel.
Shopify worth?
Yeah, it's a lot of work to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So new phone who dis figured it out. Just go ahead, type your comments, and we'll answer them. Meanwhile, while you guys get your thoughts together, Python is one of the most popular programming languages in the world. And it's slow. It is probably the slowest programming language that is widely used in the world. So here's my question. Why is Python so slow?
Well, okay, so yeah, it may be slow, but I will say, last time I was on here, I said my top 3 languages were Rust, Python, and a shell script. And I got a lot of criticism for shell and Rust, but everybody seemed to like Python. So it's got something going for it. Yeah, it's a little bit slower. It's maybe a lot slower.
It's a lot slower.
But why are you doing, CPU-bound problems on Python in the first place? I don't know. It's a very niche,
I have to admit, Python has become one of my go-to languages. Yeah. I need to write some little piece of code. I just start writing Python. It is far and away, Python is far and away the easiest programming language that professionals actually use.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh man, I want to be a software developer, the quickest path, I think, is to master Python.
Yeah, it's a good...
People are paying for Python code, and it's easier than any of the other languages they're paying for.
It does a lot of things right.
Yeah, I find myself, just kind of typing code and I don't remember the command, so I take a guess, and it's right. 9 times out of 10, I guess and it's right?
Yeah, I think Python and Ruby are definitely languages that were written for people to read, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
And it excels at that. Yeah. So who cares if it's a little bit slow?
It depends what you're doing. So much of what people do with these programming languages is gluing together other things.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You pull this from your email and then you send it to the AI. The AI has to be fast, but how often are some of these things happening? It's
Yeah. So there's different levels of communication between. So communicating with different computers is the most expensive thing, and then talking to some other program on the local computer is a little bit cheaper than that. And then if you still need something that's a little bit faster, you could write a library for Python that's written in C or Rust or something.
You think talking to another computer is the slowest thing? I think you are unfamiliar with tape drives, my friend. That is the slowest thing.
How about a tape drive on another computer?
Once you hit a tape drive, it hardly matters where in the world it is.
How slow are we talking?
Well, so So it takes, it can take a minute for the tape to spin to the right spot. But then once it starts, it's super high bandwidth, right? So tapes are like the worst latency in the world. Latency potentially in the tens of seconds. Actually, when you get into the big enterprise systems, I don't know how much these really exist anymore. I think they do, though, at like Amazon, where there's libraries of tapes. And the robot arm goes and grabs the right tape and sticks it in. Like, that's a real thing for.
That's interesting. Does it retain data like really well?
Yeah, it can hold huge amounts of data for a long time. And once it's going, the bandwidth is very high.
Nice.
Right? So huge. So I think some of the stuff like Amazon Glacier, where they'll store vast amounts of data for a fraction of what S3 costs.
Yeah.
I think some of those things that they're actually sticking your data on a tape and putting the tape on a shelf with a robotic arm.
Yeah, I'd be very curious what the half-life of information is on different mediums.
Severon says, Python is easy to use. It's what you prototype stuff with. Yeah, there's a couple Speedify features. The whole streaming area in the user interface got prototyped by me as a standalone Python thing that you ran next to Speedify. And I was finally like, yeah, this is useful. This is telling me stuff I want to know. And then handed it off to, Brian Lutz and stuff, and just, got completely written. I don't think one line of my code is there anymore. But thanks for adding custom bypass rules to the Linux GUI. Asked this a couple months ago. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
In fact, we've added it to every GUI, right? Which is interesting because Linux and Windows for a long, long time, you could come in the command line and type these commands in order to, bypass things. But now in every operating system, even stuff like iOS, where we can't have a command line now, you can go in and do custom bypass rules.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a nice usability improvement for Linux. It's a whole new world for iOS, right? Where it was totally impossible before.
Yeah. So speaking of cross-platform support, a very common thing that you'll see like shell scripts are like nice and all, but getting them to work on Windows, I think so, but getting them to work on Windows, for example, is like pushing a boulder up a mountain with a spoon. And and then Windows has its own view of the world with like PowerShell stuff. And like,
so I was looking at some of your shell scripts.
My shell scripts?
Your shell scripts. And I was honestly initially surprised to discover last night that you were writing shell scripts yesterday in 2025, because I've been doing this for so long that I remember when Perl showed up. Right?
To try to replace my shell scripts.
Well, it was replacing all sed and awk.
I checked an awk code last night.
This is what set me off. You wrote it. So in like 1993, they made Perl as the tool to replace sed and awk and grep, so no one would have to use that crap again. And the interesting thing is, by Perl 3, they had done it. We all stopped using sed and awk because Perl was such a nicer tool. It could do everything that all these weird Linux tools did. But then they kept adding stuff to it. And they tried to make it object-oriented. And then they turned it into a meta-language. And then everyone went back to sed and awk because it had started as a little tool to replace all those weird Linux tools to make Linux easier to use. And then they decided they would be the programming language of all programming languages, and we all left, right? The people who wanted a good programming language, I think, largely end up going to, Python or Ruby.
So was Python like the spiritual successor to Perl?
I actually think there might have been a bit more of a gap in there before it took over, right? I think people wandered around the desert a little bit looking for the right tool, but there was a point where Perl went wrong.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like my least favorite language.
By now it's in a bad spot, right? And so Larry Wall, the creator of Perl, who interestingly, going back to the original vision, he said he created the Perl programming language because he's the laziest person he's ever met.
It's a good sign of a good engineer.
Right. He didn't want to do the work of learning all these tools. So it was easier to just make one consistent tool. And he succeeded. But every year he gives a speech of the state of Perl, and he starts with the state of Perl is great, thank you very much, and it's not. Right? People were abandoning in droves, and he's still giving the speeches that start that way.
It's not. Yeah.
So
Sounds like Bjorn Strustrup. Everything is fine here. It's a great language. It's safe. Fine. It's fine.
yeah,
Don't
so
worry about it.
yeah. So he's the creator of C++ that we're talking about here. So guys, we're here. Some of you have figured it out. Type comments. We'll see them. We'll respond. We are here for you.
Alex, it's possible that they're not asking us questions because
they're
they
so
don't have any issues.
Well, obviously
They don't have any
no
issues,
with
and they want to hear
Speedify,
about Python.
And they're so fascinated
Maybe I just have to talk about
by
Rust so
the
people get angry.
pearls coming out of our mouth.
The pearls.
Wisdom.
No, I don't think I've ever written Perl, but I have. I've sent this to you many times. The Perligata. Someone took some Perl thing, and they were like, "Well, it would be nice if you could just write Latin, and that would be Perl code somehow." And they did it, and you can write.
Yeah, so
Latin.
somewhere around Perl 6.
Like what?
They got into this weird thing where like Perl be the programming language that can turn into any other programming language, and I don't know why. They're like it's the meta programming language. I mean, it was the tool for replacing sed and awk and all those dumb Linux tools. I don't know. They had this vision that
I don't
just
know.
basically didn't convince anyone. As far as I know, everyone just
Look,
left Perl.
You and I both know that we've been doing this in C by just writing to our own memory addresses all over the place.
So why is Python slow?
Python's slow, typically.
And slow relative to what, I suppose, is another thing you have to ask.
Yeah, so Python is a dynamically, it's there's languages that do a lot of work up front, and then there's languages that don't do a lot of work up front, and they're kind of like loose and free with what kind of stuff they accept. Languages like JavaScript and Python and Perl, all the scripting languages, all the shell scripts, they just take what you give them up front and then they work with it, as time goes on. And then there's languages that do a lot of work up front to like optimize your code, turn it into really efficient machine instructions. They have a lot of neat tricks. And it takes time to compile
Right.
those
So
things.
Python, for instance, has lots of functions that just work on almost anything. You can give it a string or an integer or whatever, and it just kind of does the right thing. All that's work that has to be done to handle the different cases, whereas something like Java is strongly typed. Right? Every function takes an exact type and you must pass it to it. And a lot of times you have to put in parentheses the type it's looking for before the thing to prove to it that you're passing it the right type, which annoys a lot of people.
So for example,
Probably for good reasons.
For example, if you write a function in Python that takes 2 arguments and adds them together, then when you call that function, you have to first check that it's a function. Let me make sure that this is really a function. It takes 2 arguments. And then you gotta make sure it takes actually 2 arguments. And then you gotta make sure that you can actually add them together. Maybe there's like nothing that can do the plus thing, And then you gotta do that. And that's a lot of it. In C, it's like one assembly instruction and a function call. That's it.
Right. But that's because the programmer must have things perfectly set up for that, one instruction.
Yeah, but in Python, it's like, well, does it look like it can
type
add
away
together?
and it works away, yeah. All right. So, do you guys use Python in Speedify?
Not in the Speedify app, but we use Python we got a lot of stuff going on here. We use, probably our biggest Python project is maybe DevOps stuff, maybe the town, one of the two. But we have a big, virtual town that we use to test Speedify. It emulates the relationship between a client and a server, multiple clients and multiple servers, clients talking to each other. So it sets up these virtual networks and rules for how they communicate with each other, network emulation stuff. All that's Python.
And all prototype stuff, right? Like I said, really, the streaming stuff, the stats about your live streams, that I first wrote in Python. And once I showed it was as a separate thing, you ran next to Speedify. And once I showed it was right, then we said, okay, let's really do this, and there's none of my Python in there. Actually, it's sort of good sometimes to use a different language for prototyping, so you can't.
It can be. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel more and more, and we may have a disagreement here, though, with the AIs. Like, I can prototype some code and say, wait, I want to turn this into a real thing, right? Make a proper build script for it, write some tests for it, remove any part, like, you go through with 10 prompts and turn a prototype into something much more real.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a perfectly good way to do development. In a lot of ways, I think AI is a democratizing force. It opens up a lot of new avenues to
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Is Python interpreted language, not a pre-compiled language?
Yeah, it's an interpreted language. It's an interpreted language. There are variants of Python that try to have a compiler for a subset of the language, or like Mojo is a good example of that. And there's a Python JIT interpreter, which is kind of like
Just-in-time compiler.
yeah. So it's kind of a bridge between interpreted languages and compiled languages, where you want some of the benefits of an optimizing compiler, but you don't want to spend the time doing that before you can actually run the thing. So it waits a little bit until you actually...
Java was kind of on the leading edge of some of this just-in-time
The
compiler
JVM
stuff
is a
back then,
great
right?
piece of software.
So the code sort of starts off interpreted, but if you keep running the same function over and over, it eventually rewrites it into machine language on your computer, and then you're running the native machine language, and you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
It just sort of gets faster as it runs for a while. So Brian Purdell, our Chief Technical Officer, says the biggest Python thing we have has to be the automated tests. Yeah, we have so many tests written in Python that run every single night, actually every single day, right? We have a bunch of huge computers in Montreal for some reason. I have no idea why, that are just whenever somebody makes a change to Speedify, the Python code grabs the latest version of Speedify and tries everything, right? Huge amounts of code, high-speed connections, low-speed connections, unreliable connections, lots of connections, one connection, no connection, logging in, logging out, all this stuff written in Python over and over and over.
And we do it in Canada.
And we do it in Canada for reasons that are not clear to me.
The Canadian influence, I mean, you've got Canadian roots.
I have Canadian roots, is
Ackerman?
correct. Scott's a Canadian citizen, for God's sakes.
What?
Yeah, look at us. We're multinational. So diverse. All right. Different topic here. What are future plans for Speedify?
We got a lot of them.
We have a lot of them. Right now, a lot of our attention is on making sure Speedify works great on routers. This 16 release comes with the performance enhancing proxy. It comes with the load balancer. Actually, load balancer works on all operating systems if you want it, but I think it's most obvious that there's certain router people who wanted it. So we're really working on improving performance. So this is the Miri X510 I've talked about before. Ooh. It is a really nice device. It's really for video professionals. It has a 5G modem. It has a 4G modem, so 2 real cellular. It's not just dual SIM, you put in 2 cards that uses one at a time. It's got 2 full radios. It's got Wi-Fi 6. It's got 2 USB ports on the front, so you can hang cell phones or additional cellular modems off them. Uses NPF batteries. It's got 2 battery slots and only needs 1 to run, so you can swap batteries all day. It's just a really nice device. And so we are spending a lot of our time right now making sure this guy succeeds. We're not Miri. We're partners with Miri. They're a company in Pennsylvania making this, really high-end professional router, and
We're doing a collab.
Yeah, that's right, as the rappers would say. We're also making sure that the travel routers, GLINet, that's a bunch of attention on these things, that it works nicely on them. Yeah. So lots of stuff. The PEP, if you tried Speedifying a router back whenever, it's time to try again. It is so much faster.
We beat WireGuard now.
Oh, yeah. So Barrel AX, and they advertise it as being able to do WireGuard at up to 300 megabits.
We can do 6.
We can do 600 megabits on the same device, right? This thing is not the world's most powerful CPU. WireGuard, even WireGuard that runs in the Linux kernel directly, and everyone sure is the fastest VPN can get up to 300 megabits on this. And they're proud of that. Like, you can get 300 megabits through this with WireGuard. You can get 600 megabits through it with Speedify. Boom!
For however great Python might be.
We did not get to those speeds by adding Python code to this. It is highly optimized C++.
Yeah.
All right. Boop, boop, boo. All right. Where in Canada are you from? I'm from Saskatchewan. My grandmother and mother and uncles and things were all in Stratford, Ontario for a long time. No one's there anymore. Some people are in London and some people are in Toronto, but to me, Stratford was the place where actually my ancestors lived. So I went back there with my mother, and on the way out of town, she says, "Oh, by the way, that house there, that's the one that your ancestors moved into in 1851 when they first arrived from Scotland." I'm like stopping the car, like, "Let's go look." And she's like, "No, we got to go. Let's go. It's not interesting." Like,
We gotta go.
Yeah, so, half my ancestors hung out in Stratford, Ontario from, 1851 to, 1960s. So it's 100 years in that town.
Nice.
So, actually, cool thing, there's a bed and breakfast, which was in my great-grandfather's house. So my mother got an old family photo taken in that house, blown up, framed it, and just gave it to the bed and breakfast.
Nice.
Cool. Just showed up and said, "Here's a picture of this house from 100 years ago, the family that lived in it." So they hung it up.
Nice.
So you go into the place, and the first thing you see is this picture of my grandmother as a teenager. It's like, okay, fantastic. How is the self-hosted server coming along? Fantastic. We intend to release on Friday the version of Speedify that can use the self-hosted servers correctly. Turned out a few tweaks in the actual software was needed. It'll be just a few short weeks after that. We're getting very, very close. People are in this office are self-hosting their own servers. And we just got to polish a few things up, and we'll get it out to you. It is really coming. Shout out to the Serbian part of the team. Yes, there's a whole bunch of people working here from Serbia. Will, are you from Nebraska?
No, I'm from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm curious why you ask, Paul.
Got one of those Nebraska losers. He's one of the cool people from Wisconsin. Got a couple of Wisconsin people here.
BP.
Yeah, BP is from Wisconsin. Obviously, Speedify is extremely flexible using different internet sources. Aside from the 2 routers you have shown, do you have any recommendation for standard configuration approaches for different categories? So I guess the first thing to say, if you're thinking about Speedify on some sort of device doing routing stuff, look for OpenWRT.
Yep.
A lot of it, when we say we're making it work great on routers, to get more specifically, we're making it work great on OpenWRT routers. So lots of optimizations in Speedify and in talking to all the various pieces of software on OpenWRT. It's a little different than, we'd spent a long time on the Debian Linuxes like Ubuntu and stuff. OpenWRT is sort of halfway to really being a different operating system. I mean, it's still Linux, but it's like different, right? Every decision they've been going through and saying what's best for a router.
It's good. It's real good. Yeah.
So I swear this used to work. I don't know what happened, but I went to install Emacs on my router 2 nights ago, and it said it didn't know what Emacs was. Horrifying.
I could understand why that might have
But I think I've done it
been
before.
mistake.
So maybe there was a network error. Surely there was a mistake.
I'm sure we could write a package for that.
The CPU matters. Like I said, I mean, we're if you're not a router, you don't need as much CPU for Speedify,
Yeah.
right? I mean, a Raspberry Pi 5, if it's just going to the internet for programs running on the Raspberry Pi 5, it can max out a gigabit internet connection with Speedify with no problem. But as soon as you're acting like a router and transferring packets from someone else, the CPU load starts going up.
Yeah, for like inherent reasons that
Inherent rate, yeah.
you're processing more traffic and you're making more decisions about that traffic, and the packets are smaller.
Yes.
And you got
it turns
less to
out
work with.
Speedify is pretty fast and efficient, but we do use some CPU, and we use CPU based on the number of packets you're sending. We don't actually, it's not using more data that slows us down. It's using more packets. Now, obviously, if you want to send twice as much data, that means sending twice as many packets most of the time. But we have cool stuff we do. You know, if we're running on the same computer as the program, Speedify can tell the program basically directly, by the way, you can give me giant packets. You can give me 15,000 byte packets, right? Normal packets are 1,500 bytes. We'll tell the programs, you can give us packets that are 10 times larger, and most programs will just do it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, okay, if I'm downloading a file, I'll give you 15,000 bytes if you say you can send it.
Jumbo package.
Jumbo packets. And so clever stuff where we'll just tell your web browser, like, I'll give you I'll take whatever packets you can give us bigger packets, and they'll switch to bigger packets. But when you're going across a Wi-Fi link to another computer, we have no way to tell them that, and the Wi-Fi link can only take, 1480 byte packets, and so we end up getting all these packets, and we have to start doing really, really clever things. So on a router, CPU actually matters a lot more than it does on a regular computer for Speedify, which is why, this guy, whatever, it's got a dual core ARM from a number of years ago. It's not it's Wi-Fi AX. So the Wi-Fi chip is pretty modern, but the CPU's, a couple of years behind. It's just two ARM cores, and we can get 600 megabits, which is more than it can do doing WireGuard in the kernel. So we did some clever things.
Just looks like a
You just look like a cornhusker. All right, Alex, what is coming for 2026? Anything big we can look forward to? 2026, that's so far away. We're agile, man. I'll tell you, I don't know for 2026.
We're putting Speedify on your toaster.
Putting Speedify on your toaster. Self-hosted servers are coming, but they're going to be out before 2026. I promise you that. Lots of improvements for routers, but that kind of probably takes us to the end of the year, right? I think we have.
With all the holidays, probably. Yeah.
With all the holidays, probably takes as long as that. So continuing to work on that. I think a lot of analytics stuff. If you looked at myspeedify.com now, next to your devices, there's a little graph. You can go click and you can get some analytics. Mm-hmm. We have a little bit of data of what your devices did on the network in the last 2 weeks that we can graph for you. So that's a kind of cool feature. What do you guys think of using the Zig programming language? So Zig is an improved C, right?
Something like that. Yeah. I've never written a Zig program, but I've read a lot about it. I know that Zig did a lot of beautiful work on cross-compilation. They did such great work that other languages use the Zig cross-compiler. They also did some interesting stuff with asynchronous programming. There was the famous article that the creator of Zig wrote about colored functions, and and
What color is my function?
what color is my function?
That's the title of the article. It's a famous article.
Yeah. There's some good ideas in it. I mean, I'd be open to writing it.
So really, it's a Rust competitor, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't think it has the kind of memory safety that Rust does. I don't know. I don't know too much about Zig. Those are the two things I know.
All right. So yeah, but I think it is. I mean, it's for that same kind of high performance, low level code. I mean, obviously it's got a very different feature set, but I don't think you'd be picking between Zig and Python, right?
No, that's unlikely. Yeah. Or if you are, I'd be very curious what you're doing.
Yeah. I want a standalone app to control my Miri OpenWRT. The mobile web experience isn't that great. Getting better. So Miri OpenWRT. There'll be some improvements today. I've got some crazy stuff I still haven't shown him yet. That I jammed some crazy new graphs into their user interface late last night. Will hasn't even seen it yet. Maybe it's terrible, and maybe it's a stroke of genius, which will make you say, "Wow, I love using Miri OS." So Miri OS, in partnership with the Miri guys, doing a version of OpenWRT that works great with Speedify. So in some case, it's not a whole new operating system. It is OpenWRT with Speedify installed, with the software to tether iPhones and Androids and common 4G and 5G cards all installed, with weird programs that conflict with Speedify not installed, with some graphs and stuff specific to Speedify moved right to the front of OpenWRT, so you see it immediately on the dashboard, right? Sort of blending together, right? If you're using Speedify on OpenWRT, you want some of the OpenWRT stuff, you want some Speedify stuff. In some cases, you want them right next to each other. It's the logical place. So we've added a dashboard where you can see it all. So it's good.
Yeah, I see you, John. But could you write into support about what in particular is not great? Because I'd like to fix that up. If you have any particular comments or a theme that you're trying to go for, more than happy to take a look at that stuff.
Can Speedify help with ESP mesh? I think ESP mesh, this is IoT stuff. I think Home Assistant actually acquired the ESP people. I don't know much about it. I would think that what's going on is that the ESP mesh is probably local stuff that Speedify stays out of. And then when you try to go to the internet, you hook it up to Speedify to get a faster, more reliable connection, and it probably works fine for any traffic going from your ESP mesh out to the internet. I would think. I think it's an IoT thing, or connecting where you can get those little ESP, development boards, and you pop the software on it, and then it just shows up in Home Assistant, so you can build your own inventions, and then it just shows up, and they automatically build a web GUI for you and stuff, and it seems pretty nice. Haven't actually used it. I mean, I use Home Assistant, but
2026, we're putting Speedify on an ESP32.
I have fat thumbs. It's just a small web experience is all. It's nice overall, though. Thank you. But yeah, we have a huge number of improvements, including a giant speed up. If you've been using the Miri OS, that initial dashboard, as of Friday, took 5.4 seconds to load. And it just made the whole thing feel slow, which is not what we want from Speedify.
To load fully.
To load fully.
Waiting
right?
for a
now,
response.
now we're down at 2 seconds. So
Yeah.
this next version going out, it's a 2-second load. I'd like to make it faster, but I suspect that no one will care. That just doesn't feel slow anymore. No one will think about it, and no one cares that much. But at 5 seconds, it felt like, ugh, why is Speedify so slow? Which is not a sentence I want anyone to say. Are you planning OPN sense or PF sense support?
So one of the benefits of OpenWRT is that you can just get whatever. I'm not getting defensive. Who is this guy? What is going on?
But about OPN sense or PF sense, you were saying. All right, I'll answer then. Last I checked, both these things are built on NetBSD kernel. We do not support that, and I know it's possible for us to support it because, after all, we support the same code on Linux kernel, Windows kernel, iOS kernel, Mac OS kernel. So it's certainly possible. It would be a lot of work for us. It's not on the roadmap. If there are any ports to get this stuff running on Linux, on the Linux kernel, this is like, firewall apps for NetBSD, and they're really nice firewall apps. We'd like to work with them. We probably do just work with them if you can get them to run on the Linux kernel. But yeah, NetBSD we don't support at this time. All right.
You want to talk about the GIL? People love talking
Oh,
about the
going
GIL.
back to Python, one of the things that you hear people say makes Python slow is the global interpreter lock, the GIL. What the heck is this, and why does it make Python slow?
Well, as of recently, it no longer exists.
Well, good.
But it used to. So around the turn of the century, computers started getting more CPUs to do work at the same time. But there was, already whatever, 10 trillion lines of code that was written assuming that you had one thing going on at a time. And so the way that a lot of programming languages and systems and kernels dealt with this was by having a big lock, like a big global lock. And whenever you needed one part of the system to communicate with a shared resource that they both have read-write access to, with another part of the system, then you would lock everything. And that's
Right,
what
so
that's what
Python
Python
would let you create multiple threads to run on the multiple CPUs.
But in reality,
every time one of them goes to, like, open a new file, close a file, send a message
Yeah.
to the other CPU, the whole thing would lock up.
yep.
As it would do the dangerous thing, and then it would unlock it, and you'd go back to running. In the end, most people discovered,
You just don't do multi-threaded programming with these languages.
yeah, it was just too slow.
And there were workarounds that the language did and that libraries did for a long time that got you far enough. Whenever it did network I/O or file I/O or similar enough things like that, it had like escape hatches for these things that actually did let some things do a small subset of things and at the same time. But it was not great, and nobody liked it. And 20 years later, we finally got the GIL out with a modest performance detriment to single-threaded code and speculative increases to more modern workloads. But we'll see.
Nice.
The Linux kernel used to have a big kernel lock too.
So I remember there was an article in the 90s where Linux was kind of new, and people did a performance test of it as a web server against Windows. And the shocking headline was that Windows is 10 times faster than Linux. And all these Linux developers, or Linux fans, were telling them they were wrong, they had screwed up the thing, blah, 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 blah. And then Linus Torvalds showed up and said, no, they're right. Like this test, we're hitting the single lock in the kernel. The Windows is actually multi-threaded, and we're essentially single-threaded in this test.
It's been fixed.
Of course Windows is fast. Well, yeah, this was a long time ago, and then they fixed it,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, there were all these Linux fanboys saying, you did the test wrong. And then,
Yeah.
Linus himself showed up and said, no, they didn't. They're hitting the slow part of the kernel. It is. There's a single lock.
Yeah.
So.
Locks.
All right. Yes. Since the turn of the century, the quote of the day. All right. John Paul says, I'm still writing Objective-C function names 20 years later when verbosity is normal.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that. Objective-C is an interesting language. Predates C++.
I couldn't believe it.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, Apple's an interesting company with a lot of interesting languages and technologies that they go back for. A descendant of Unix-like systems,
So
the
I
BSDs.
I had a consulting job in 1999. I can say this stuff when the NDAs are over. No one cares anymore. For Fannie Mae.
Oh, right.
And they were thinking about switching to Objective-C.
From COBOL?
Could have been. I don't remember. And I ended up saying, that's crazy. That language is dead. And they didn't. And, the truth is, somehow it was dead until the iPhone showed up. And, this dead language, Apple was like, this is the only language you can use to write apps on the phone. And whoop, back to life. In fact, I mean, that must be 99.999% of the Objective-C code ever written has been written since the iPhone was launched, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's got to be. Yeah, I'd be really curious whose decision that was and what their reasoning was. Apple is very heavy-handed about that stuff.
Yeah.
For reasons I don't
I assume
understand.
it was Steve Jobs himself, right?
I don't know.
Because when he was at Next, they built they built all their operating system future on Objective-C, right? They built this whole stack. They wrote their own kernel, their own user interface, everything with Objective-C.
That next step?
Next step, right? That was all Objective-C. Yeah. It was a very modern operating system created in the 90s, but hardware wasn't fast enough. They had cool-looking machines with this beautiful interface, but it was so slow that they failed, and Apple bought them. And I think a lot of their stuff has made it into Mac OS, right?
Interesting.
All right. Any benefit from switching from DMZ to my cable modem to a MikroTik router IP and then managing the network there to have full bridge mode enabled on the modem, because mine doesn't support it? I don't think there's very much.
What are you trying to do?
Yeah, what are you trying to do? The penalty from double NATs doesn't seem that high. I don't know. I think there is. My house right now, I have like 3 NATs in a row, and so I only get 930 megabits out of my gigabit internet. But in fact, who cares? Right?
Yeah.
So depending on what you're doing and stuff, and sometimes it's stuff like bridge mode, you would think it would be faster, and sometimes it turns out to not be because you end up shuffling packets and software. So I guess it's a question of what you're doing. I mean, if you have a lot of stuff with port forwarding, well, that can be a thing.
Yeah. What about Rust?
What about Rust?
What about Rust? Rust is a good one. I think it's very different from Python. It's very promising. There's things that Rust does really well. It's not the language of the next 100 years, but it might be the language of the next 10. Languages, they can and should evolve. And I think that Rust is the natural evolution of what we used to use languages like C for, but we didn't really want to get up with like ADA and formal verification. It's pretty good. You can do a lot of great stuff with Rust. You can do a lot of great stuff with a lot of languages, but it's a good one. I like it.
The inability to write bugs.
Certain kinds of bugs.
Certain kinds of bugs. It just seems so good, but there's just something about it. I just got to write more, I guess. I guess the other topic we should talk about here, the hidden, we're talking about different languages, but one of the most important things now is LLMs. Like,
Right, yeah.
which languages can the LLMs write? Right? I mean, so in the end, it's almost more, the idea, it's got, the more popular languages, the more coding samples it has, and the more it can help, right?
I think that I think it's a developing subfield or specialty, how to do code generation with LLMs. But I think that that's probably right for a lot of things, that that LLMs are going to be better at writing JavaScript than, I don't know, your pet project language that one person uses and it's you. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, for some of the web stuff, we were talking about this, right? If you're using some library in your website, the truth is the LLMs now have gone out and scraped every website. So they've actually read the code for every single site in the world using this library already. Like, you reading the documentation, you're starting so far behind.
Yeah, I mean, LLMs are good. LLMs are good for code generation, but the kind of code that they generate is a good first draft still. Maybe they'll get better. I think that in the next, 10 years, I would not be surprised if the instructions were the valuable thing about certain kinds of repositories. The detailed instructions for what the architecture of a project looks like, what its relationship to the outside world is, what kinds of systems it runs on, what the shape of what you're building. I would not be surprised if that's an important and valuable thing about certain kinds of repositories. Yeah. Will is using it wrong then. I don't know. That could be. About
Are
what?
we going to get a Claude coding language? I was thinking about that. I started to think.
I think it's Markdown.
Do we need a higher level programming language that just like describes what we want with no hints about how to do it, so the LLMs can fill it in? Then I realized if you had that, the LLMs would just write that too, right? And so now you're I don't know. I feel like there's a snake eating its tail here. Will is using it wrong.
Okay.
You structure your ask with architecture and commands plus a to-do. You're golden, pony boy.
That's what I said. I said that. Yeah, I said that too. I don't know why everyone
Claude
hates
coding language is whatever your
Fuck is
native
going on?
language is. Yeah, you just describe what you want in English. It's already read every book and understands. I feel like these LLMs, people talk about like doesn't have a world model. And they're meaning something specific, right? I think it does have a world model, but it consists entirely of words, right? It's not a 3D model. Right? It's read all the text and it knows English at a superhuman level.
That's
right?
a savant.
Far beyond any human's understanding of English.
And yet you can convince it that 1 + 1 is 3, and it'll apologize.
Because it doesn't have this model of the world. It's just words, right? Although there was also, OpenAI, that they put out a paper now just a few weeks ago, saying that they realized they had messed up. When they trained the AI, they gave it points for giving a right answer and, a penalty for a wrong answer. And anything that wasn't the right answer was a wrong answer. So I don't know was always a wrong answer.
So you're better to just guess.
So now that they said the next time they train it, they're going to put I don't know as partway between. Not as bad as making up something that's actually false, right? They accidentally trained it to just go for it. If it didn't know for it, make something up, because it was best to take some shot that you might get it right.
Or some
they
shot that
trained it
you
to
can convince
BS.
someone that it looks right.
Well, correct, right? The scales of how do you measure, right? There's this whole question of how do they measure that the LLMs do the right thing? And apparently people who dig into it are like, this is not as scientific or as accurate as you might imagine. There's an awful lot of, showing people in Kenya the thing in English and saying, is this right?
This look good to you? Yeah, it looks pretty good.
And they're paid for getting through as many of these as they can, so they're not going to go off and pull up an encyclopedia to check it. So
I was watching this video of this guy, and he pulls ChatGPT up on his phone, and he puts the camera on, and he like points at his stuff, and he's like, how many grams is this? So like everything, and if ChatGPT gets it wrong, he puts it in the fridge, and he makes it talk to his milk for like an hour. Like, what is going on in this? ChatGPT is like, could not be more. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, I got that. Oh, looks like we're a little bit of 20 grams. Oh well. Okay, hello, Mr. Ketchup. It's in there for like an hour. What?
It's funny how it suggests you, right? So we were talking this morning. I was telling you how Claude will often, I'll come up with ideas, and Claude will tell me that it doesn't want to do that, and that's a bad idea, and it doesn't want to make any changes to the core of OpenWRT. No thanks. Why don't I think of a better way to do this?
We have made changes. We have made changes to the core of OpenWRT, and it never fought me on that. I don't even remember if I asked it, but I don't think it's.
And you said that
Yeah.
it curses at Mike.
It does, yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't know what he did to Claude, but
How many grams is this?
his Claude curses at him while he's developing. If he says something, it doesn't say you're absolutely right. It's really cool. All right. How do you feel about programming morality and empathy into the LLMs? That in and of itself is the downfall of AI. Agree or disagree?
I don't know if you can.
I don't think you can. I think it is still at probably 1 or 2 levels of abstraction too low. So when they try to program this stuff, no showing breasts, because breasts are part of pornography. RAY will not let you draw breasts. And then the doctor comes trying to do some documentation on how to check for breast cancer, and the AI won't help him because it would be unethical to draw these diagrams about how to detect breast cancer. Like, it's the opposite of unethical, right? It's just at the wrong level to make morality decisions. It doesn't really, you're going to get caught. There's also a weird thing that's turned out as they try to program all these rules into the AI. Don't answer this question. Don't answer that question.
Yeah, I don't think
Never
you
say
can.
this. It
People have
noticeably degrades the intelligence of the AI.
That's interesting.
When it starts adding all these rules about don't say this, don't say that. I mean, that, I don't know what it is, using more memory and stuff, and restricting the spaces it's willing to even go into to look for answers. It gets noticeably dumber. But, on the other hand, you take all these rules out and somebody says they're God and it agrees they're God and they can fly and they jump out a window. And now we're all saying, why did they let that happen? So I'm only saying I don't have the answers.
Yeah, I don't know if you. I don't think you can define morality or ethics in a way that you could program it or clearly describe it.
And it turns out
there's
we're
a lot of
not in
issues
such
with,
agreement, right?
Yeah, I don't know if
Logic. Turns out logic is surprisingly useless in solving all arguments, right? Because the argument is always that we don't agree on the basic facts. Logic only helps when we agree on the facts, right?
Yeah, it's tricky stuff.
Yeah. An awful lot of racist stuff was once upon a time argued to be the moral way to do it. And I don't know. Whose morality? Hard pass. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you see the Sora app launch before they put the kibosh on using likeness? I did. I don't know. I don't care. I don't mean that like, I tried it, and yeah, you can make these really cool little videos, and people make really cool little videos, but it turns out they're not cool at all. Right?
I don't know.
I love watching videos of parrots interacting with real people. And so it's full of fake videos of parrots arguing with cops. And it's not real. I want to see what an actual parrot does. And so they make the parrot say super funny things. And when it didn't come from a real parrot, it's just an LLM or a comedian putting words in what looks like it's meaningless. It's nothing. I get nothing out of it. And some of the videos are so good it's hard to tell. One of the tells now actually is that the audio is perfect in the Sora videos.
Interesting.
The people are talking. The people you hear these people talking off camera, and they're perfectly clear, like they're perfectly mic'd talking into a microphone with no extra background noise. Right? If it really had been filmed, the sound is much worse. But of course, in 3 months they'll fix that to upgrade Sora to have worse sound quality, so it seems realer, and then they'll start tricking me. Or about 11 Labs now having an iconic store where you can license voices like Judy Garland or Michael Caine. Oh, I haven't seen that. I did see that, what's his name, Darth Vader.
What about him?
The voice of Darth Vader.
You can, yeah. Oh, yeah. Something Jones.
Oh yeah, James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, did a deal with Disney. It's a specific deal where they can use his digital voice, right? And so he went in and recorded huge amounts of Darth Vader saying things and told Disney they can use it to program LLMs, but only to be Darth Vader. They can't make up any new characters using his voice or whatever, but as long as it's Darth Vader. And so he was paid already while he was still alive for it.
I would do that.
Yeah. I can't even use jokes from Blazing Saddles. Yeah, so I put Blazing Saddles on. One of the funniest comedies from the 70s. Big theme of it is anti-racist, but they make the 70s racist jokes to make fun of them. Ooh, 5 minutes in, I turned it off. By modern standards, you're a bad person to even listen to that humor. Like, ugh. And so when they talk about this stuff, how modern standards are making comedy harder, like, man, everybody loved that movie in the 70s. People were all racist because it was anti-racist. But you watch it now and you're like, only a racist would watch people say this. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, ethics is tricky. I don't.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been going for an hour here. Anything else we're supposed to talk about? Current version of Speedify 1603. You should update if you didn't. There'll probably be another update next week. More improvements for routers. Some more neat things getting slid in. I think a few more of our networking features will be more configurable, like the bypass is. And what else was I going to say? Oh, support for self-hosted servers, although they won't be on sale next week. If you're excited about them, you might as well have the software that's going to support them so you're ready for the day it launches. Will, what's your Instagram so we can follow you?
Apparently, I still have an Instagram, but I haven't used it in a while. I think it's Will Hi, WILLHI. But I think I can still get into it. I don't know.
Alex, you need a personal one too. I have a personal one. and I think it's something like Alex Gizis. I don't use it at all. I don't know. I don't care about Instagram. I never managed to care. I realized it became super popular. Everyone else is using it. I get on there. I don't know. I posted 3 pictures. The first one being when the Pope was in town.
That's when Python
There was
still
a
had
dog
gill.
dressed like the Pope. So that's my first post to Instagram, and I think there's only been about 2 since. Yeah. I recently received a complaint about my LinkedIn saying that I am making blue sky posts to LinkedIn, and I should stop and go do
You
those
don't
on
have a blue sky profile, do you?
I signed up for it, but I've never posted anything. So I may start. I was told that the content I'm posting on LinkedIn belongs on Blue Sky. So maybe
Okay, buddy.
maybe I need to go use it. Certainly. Yeah, I don't know. All right. I only watch entirely AI-generated feature films now.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, I was starting to imagine and I'm sure it wouldn't work, right? A podcast app where you have 2 AIs, like you've heard, right? Who are talking to each other about a topic, and that you arm each of the 2 agents with slightly different facts and slightly different imitations and voices, so that they have a conversation. But then that you have the ability, since it's AI, to jump in the middle and be like, wait, what? Like, tell me more about Burgundy. And then they start answering your questions, right? And so it's mostly a podcast. But
Are you from Nebraska? No. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure you're from Nebraska.
I've always wanted a podcast to say, "You're absolutely right," at me.
You're absolutely right.
Check out our YouTube. There are so many new videos there. Well, there's some. We got the one about the diamond chips. Cool stuff where they're starting to put diamonds into chips, because it turns out diamond is not only the hardest natural substance, it is the best conductor of heat in nature.
Cool.
It doesn't conduct electricity, but it conducts heat better than anything. If you warm up one side of a diamond, the other side instantly reaches the same temperature. iPhone theft. It's a video where I explore how thieves do it, and out making a tutorial on how to steal an iPhone. I didn't realize till the discussions on Twitter about the video, like, oh yeah, I guess I did kind of make a tutorial on stealing iPhones. Whoops. A bunch about how the phones connect to satellites. A lot of new services today where, phones connect to satellites. And I talk about how that works, especially when you have phones that were just made for cell phone towers and now they're connecting to satellites. How do they do that? All right, a few more questions coming in. Roger rapping.
Chat is wild right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on.
I might call that podcast "You're Absolutely Right." Yeah. I hadn't even seen that. I didn't scroll down to see your comment when I made my Cornhusker Will. Have you heard about the last economy? No. Have you?
No.
Yeah. All right. What skills would you need to work at Speedify? Well, it depends what role.
Big brain, nice person.
Yeah, no assholes allowed. We're very much, at this point, hybrid. We want people, unless it's an extraordinary story, which sometimes is, in Philly or in Serbia, so that people can get together, even if we work from home most days. You know, programming, there's a lot of C++, there's a lot of JavaScript, there's a medium amount of Python.
Lots of languages.
Lots of languages. But, all right. Oh my God, now I can have a podcast. Julie Garland, Tupac. Oh, there you go.
It's Tupac.
Tupac. Yeah.
At least that's what we say in Wisconsin.
It's the corn-fed pronunciation. All right. Cool, guys. if you're into routers, like I said, we got Miri at the high end. We got the GLI net travel routers. All these things are cool little things for running Speedify on. Get bonded connection for your whole network.
You can even run Python on these things. Believe it or not.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. I think we are going to call it a night here. So thanks, Will. Thank you to everybody who commented and asked questions. This has been a lot of fun, and I'll see you all online.